All right, in this video, we're going to be factoring polynomials, but the mild level. I like to call this reverse FOIL. Oops. One thing you have to know is that if you're going to factor polynomials, the mild version, you got to have the leading coefficient. So leading coefficient must be 1. That is required for the mild version. If you're going to do a bigger number than 1 for the leading coefficient, it's going to get very difficult and challenging, which we're going to do in future lessons. But in this case, leading coefficient must be 1. So now, all right, I forgot to put all the questions up. So here we go. Here's probably every version that you're going to see. That is the leading coefficient must be 1. We've got all positive. The second one's negative, they're both negative, and then the first one's negative. And you'll see they're all different in their own way. The first one is the easiest one, so let's start here. What you're going to do is we're going to use the diamond method. This just helps organize what you're doing. So I'm going to write my diamond over here. It's just a giant X, but it makes a diamond when you connect them all together. We're going to take the number 7 and we're going to put it up top. This in the diamond method is called A times C. In this case, A is right here in front of R, and it's the number that's here, and there's an invisible 1. That's what they mean when they say the leading coefficient must be 1. It's this 1 right here. So now I know that 1 times 7 is just 7. So that's not going to do anything. And then this bottom box, or diamond, is going to be your B. And so your B is the second number right here, which is 8. So the middle number goes at the bottom, and then the first and the last get multiplied together to make the top. Now your goal is to figure out what two numbers multiply to get to the top one. So you want to put here, let's put multiply. And then they add to get to the bottom one. And those two numbers are going to go right here. So let's figure this out. We've got the number 7. What can you do to multiply anything to get to 7? Well, nothing. 7 is a prime number, which means it can only be multiplied by itself. So you can only do 1 times 7. That's it. And then to double check to see if you did it correctly, we've had to now add them. So if we take 1 times 7, and that equals 7. So now if we do 1 plus 7, does that equal 8? It does. So now we know we got our answer because 1 and 7 multiply to get 7 and they add to get 8. So now I can put my 1 here and my 7 here. Does it matter which side the numbers go on? No, it doesn't. I could have put the 7 here and I could have put the 1 here. Now the final answer is the easy part. I said it's reverse FOIL because FOIL looks like this. Parentheses multiplied by another parentheses. We're using the letter R, so an R is what gets multiplied. And you know when you multiply the F first, R times R is R squared. So that was the easy one. But now we know that 1 and 7 were the other two numbers. And if you want to check your answer, you can do FOIL. So check your answer with FOIL. So we could do R times R, and then let's do it real quick. So that would be R times R, that's R squared. R times 7, that's plus 7R. 1 times R, that's plus 1R. And then 1 times 7, that's 7. And then we'd add the middle numbers, and that would be 8R. So the final answer would be R squared plus 8R plus, and look, it's the same thing as the original, so we know we did it correctly. All right, let's try another one, but with a negative. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my diamond. And I know that the first number is, it's going to be the last number because this is 1. So it's negative 15 up top. The bottom is going to be 2. And now what two numbers multiply to get to negative 15? And they add to get to 2. Okay, so I'm going to take negative 15 over here, and I'm going to figure out, okay, I know that I could do 1 times 15. That is definitely an option. But I need to get to a negative 15, so one of these has to be negative. So I am going to make this one negative. Negative 1 times 15. So if I added those together, does that equal 2? Because that's what we're trying. No, I can already tell, because negative 1 plus 15 equals 14. So this one is a no. It's not that. All right, let's try another set. Let's change colors to orange. So let's say even if I flipped it and put the negative on the 15, it would be negative 14. So that's not it at all. What other numbers multiply to get to 15? Well, I know that 3 times 5. So if I did 3 times 5 to get to 15, yes, that equals 15. But one of them needs to be negative. How am I going to get that negative? So let's make the negative on the 5. Let's make my 5 negative, and now it makes my answer negative. And now if I add them, 3 plus negative 5, that's negative 2. I need to get to a positive 2, so that doesn't work. But I know I'm really close because I got the numbers correct. So now if I just switch the negative to the 3, if I do negative 3 times 5, I still get negative 15. But if I do negative 3 plus 5, I get a positive 2. So now I know my two numbers are negative 3 and 5. Negative 3 and 5. And I'm done. That's all I needed to make my answer. So the answer's always got to be with the parentheses. What letter did I use? I used M. So it's M minus 3 times M plus 5. And I could always go back and FOIL it out to see if I did it correctly. And it should go back to the original if you FOIL it. All right, let's try another one, except this one's got both negative and we're missing a number. But you know what invisible number is there when there's no number? It's a negative 1. So now I can do my diamond and I can put my negative 6 up top and then my negative 1 in the bottom. And I know I'm looking for what two numbers multiply to get to negative 6 and they add to get to negative 1. Ooh, okay, so let's take so negative 6, it could be 1 and 6. So I could multiply 1 times 6. I need to get to a negative 6, so one of them needs to be negative. So let's put the negative on the 1. And now if I add it, negative 1 plus 6, that equals 5. So that's not it, because 5 is not negative 1. Let's try again with a different one. Let's say I did, what else multiplies to get to 6? 2 times 3. So let's say I did 2 times 3, but I put the negative on the 2. So now that does equal negative 6 when I multiply them. And then negative 2 plus 3, that's going to be 1. But I need to get to a negative 1. I was so close, but that doesn't work. So now let's try one more. I know I got the numbers. I just put the negative on the wrong number. So now I got 2 plus negative 3. Oh, times negative 3. That equals negative 6. And then 2 plus negative 3 equals negative 1. This is our answer. And now I can write out my numbers. Actually, I like the purple. I'm going to keep it. My numbers were positive 2 and negative 3. So now when I write out the answer, it's going to look like B plus 2 times B minus 3. And then, of course, you can FOIL it out and check to see if you got it right. Okay, last one. This one's, it looks deceptive. This is actually the hardest one right here. Okay, so we're going to start with our diamond. We're going to put the 12 up top and the negative 7 at the bottom. And now I got to figure out what two numbers multiply to get to 12. They need to get to a positive 12, but somehow make a negative 7. You see the challenge there? So it has to be negative times negative to make a positive 12 here. Yeah. So let's try the easy one. Let's just try 1 times 12. And I know they're both negative because that's the only way you get to a positive 12 is if you multiply them both. And now if we add them, negative 1 plus negative 12, that equals negative 13. And that's not what we're looking for. So that's not it. We're looking for a negative 7. So what else multiplies to get to 12? Well, I know that 2 times 6 does. So let's try that. Let's change to green. So 2 times 6, they're both negative because that's the only way you get to a positive 12. And then if you add -2 plus -6, oh, we're so close. That's -8. And that doesn't work. So now let's try another one. 3 times 4. So 3 times 4, negative on both, does equal +12. And then if we did 3 plus -4, we get -7. We have finally found our numbers. It's -3 and -4. So I'll put them up here, -3, -4. Now I can write out, it's going to be n minus 3 and n minus 4. And we are done. Woo!